MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion.
Be easy, been trying.
You're right. Here we go.
He been trying to get all this stuff.
Here we go. Here we
together.
go.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion. Only on 101.3 Jams.
I to the ism, H to the
You like that,
ism
or?
talk show. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Everybody fine and dandy?
Yeah, y'all funny. Yeah, y'all.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get that
Netflix,
fixed.
we gotta mute that the internet browser over there. We have to right click on that tab so we won't hear it back. But yeah, we'll fix that during the break. How y'all feeling, good people?
Good.
Feeling good.
Great day.
Attitude check.
What up, Remy? Hope you listen to Remy St. Clair. Good attitude check.
For the people.
Mhm.
Another good Sunday morning when you could be anywhere in the world, but they're here with us, Miss
That's
Max. Razor.
Love it.
Razor looking all sharp. I don't know what to do with Razor. I
I'm
don't know.
evolving. I'm going from my caterpillar
going
stage
on?
to my butterfly.
Okay, playboy.
Black butterfly.
Playboy,
Old
you know.
school people say casket shop.
He is casket sharp. Don't cremate that brother. He casket sharp. Look at it. Who did the body?
Yeah.
Who did the body? Yeah, man.
That's old school black right there. Yeah.
So we always like to start, hopefully bring the energy up, because when these lights come on, we got a job to do. No matter what we are brought in here with us, we're gonna, get the people what they want. And so we love to start off with that good news. And so much you could complain about, but we won't complain. We're gonna celebrate our people. And one being Charlottesville, Virginia. Give it up for University of Virginia basketball.
Yeah.
What y'all think?
Yeah.
The men and women still out there balling. And, we got to love it. Because you remember when Coach Mox first came and we talked about recruiting local folks like Olivia McGee and Kamora Johnson. Kamora Johnson out here setting records not seen since Don Staley did it for the women's game.
And
Representing very well.
Take chance, and then we've been watching him since he was a little
That's right.
kid
That's
out
right.
in Floyd in halftime for St. Agnes.
Mhm.
When
That's
our
right.
daughter was playing
AAU.
AAU for them, so you knew seeing him as a little kid, he was gonna be great.
Yeah, beautiful thing. And did y'all see when they interviewed Kamora after the first game that they played in this tournament? And they said, you were a ball girl and you watched Virginia and you're a hometown girl, and now you here taking them
to heights that they haven't seen in decades. She started crying. Everybody I know, including myself, said, "Yeah, that made me tear up a little bit. That made me tear up, Mo." Yeah. Definitely, absolutely. So much good news. Our people, because we have a great show lined up for the folks as always. We have Literacy Month coming up, the importance of that reading. So the good folks from Mahogany and Friends are going to be here. Sister Josiah.
Let me ask you a question real quick. What does literacy in any form mean to our people? What does literacy mean?
We're going to have to ask the experts.
Yeah. Max, what do you think?
I think
Yeah, I thought I was going somewhere with it. I told you I got that bag of trips. Yeah.
I mean, like, are you setting up a tease for the segment, or you want to talk about that?
I want to talk about that because things have changed from the time we went to school to our kids coming along to what we may support or not support now when it comes to literacy. At one point in time, it was Encyclopedia Britannica. Everybody had those. If your parents didn't know, they told you to look it up, right? So now when our children don't know something, we tell them to go look into their phones and go grab their computers, their laptops. And then at the same time, we didn't have this problem where we had to monitor the information that came to them. When we read Encyclopedia Britannica, we wasn't telling our parents wasn't telling us,
most all kids go into school. Think about how happy little kids are when they're in preschool and kindergarten, generally speaking, first grade. Like they want to hang out with friends, like, oh yeah, my teacher is cool. We did this cool thing in school. And they start falling off. One of the biggest reasons that they say, Price Thomas did some research on this too, it's about exposure. The kids who travel over the summer and meet new people and go new places automatically academically do better. Like the kids, you know what I mean? Like so it's like literacy when it comes to just reading life, reading your surroundings.
Okay, Razor, I'll bite. Yeah. And I think it's a very simple answer, and literacy is knowing the truth about something very well. And I think a lot of what you just pointed out as problems are people-centered problems. That's or none of the answers.
Yeah. And that happens. Of course, that's gonna happen. And I feel dumb when I see the kids bring home work nowadays. I'm like, I don't know how they teaching this stuff nowadays. I don't get it.
What about experiences? What about it? Like what you just now said. What if you, as a parent, you weren't afforded the ability through your parents, to have a lot of experience? I
mean, unfortunately, that's why we see that we get set back generationally. Unfortunately, like at some point we got to break, the mold, right? Like we have to break the curse, the generational curses, as they say, and we figure out how to start building off things and stop starting from scratch. Too many times we start from scratch.
Good stuff, yeah.
And I'll take it a step further. Literacy is not power. Literacy alone is not power. It's the application of what you are then literate about that is the power.
Yeah. Max, stop letting Razor hijack our segments. This is supposed to be the intro. So, that being said, I mean, what's some other good news? There's got to be other things y'all feeling good about. You know, we in this spring season. You know, I'm a March baby, so let me say y'all are welcome. You know, I'm like, I know we get a little temperamental as March babies. Y'all see how it's snowing one day, then it's 80 degrees the next day.
Y'all got all kind of problems.
I am. But it's a beautiful thing. And then we have, you know, this time of year too, our brother Ty Cooper has been on here with us. He's brought the Indie Short Film Festival. It's their last day today. So y'all can still go try to check that out if you want. But we had the privilege of moderating and Black Professional Network as well, along with others, sponsored the Black Expressions in Cinema, and then afterwards I moderated a panel talking about
which you did very well.
Appreciate you, good brother. The Black experience, you know, in cinema, and it was about representation, right? A lot of times in our arts and our media, you know, it really was about the importance of that and where we've been, where we're going with it. So I wanted to, you know, to kind of talk about that good news and kind of get y'all's perspective on something like that being in town and those conversations being public and it being a diverse mix audience, you know, like how y'all feel about how we're being represented here in Charlottesville. You know, there's other festivals coming up right now too that's not ran by us, right? But some of us support them and we are involved in those. So I wanted to ask y'all how, you know, how important y'all feel it is to be represented in all of these forms.
Right. So I thought it was fortunate, and I'm glad that Ty had the foresight to include a discussion like that into the his Indie Short Film Festival. I too thought it was a great talk, although I can't remember the name of the two individuals that joined you on the panel.
Yeah, Eric and Jamal.
But they really covered, I would say, the entire gamut of what it is to be Black in cinema and the Black experience in cinema. I agreed with most everything that they said. I think that it is incumbent upon Black people in cinema to, though filmmakers, producers, or what have you, to tell the truth. And I think I personally lead from that place when it comes to anything that we're doing. When we live in a world where there's so much untruths and we're always trying to decipher what the real is and what isn't, I especially look to us as a people to give that unfiltered, unadulterated truth. Which makes it extra disappointing when it's one of us who is calling a lie of the truth. But not to get caught up in that, I think that, you know, just tell the truth. We're talking Charlottesville tomorrow and you're writing stories about what's happening in the community, tell the truth.
Good point.
You're over the airwaves, tell the truth. You're making a short film, a documentary, what have you. Tell the truth.
And the panelists, since you asked, I wanted to make sure I give them their due. It was Professor Kevin Everson, a UVA and Hines awardee, and Jamal Hodge. He's a Vanguard awardee and author. They involved in film and things of that sort. And let me lastly ask about representation versus ownership, because one thing we talked about is the evolution of, you know, being Black in America and how socially, right, it's sort of that big brother complex and things. And it's like we can't do any job without the culture being on our backs, the community being on our backs. One of the reasons a lot of times we're the first to maybe do something from our family or from our community, from our culture, whatever the case. And in America, we weren't always allowed, right? You know, we were blocked out of a lot of things. So then once you're allowed, then you're kind of in, all right? And then now you get more and more representation and we get more and more ownership. So the question still stands though, is like, when does it cross that line of being like appropriation, right? Or like you just being a token versus empowerment, right? We own our story. We don't have to sugarcoat to get your money because we own it. Right? But do y'all feel like representation is enough?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Razor take that one. The only thing that I want to add to my previous response is that, and do it well. Like nothing agitates me more than to know that we have the capability of doing something really, really good and us half-tailing it, or, you know, just throwing something together. Even when it comes down to, if I were to watch something that Tyler Perry produced early on, like, just do it well. Just do it well. And in my humble opinion, not like Tyler's thinking about what Max thinks. He's grown so much as a filmmaker, as a producer, as a writer, as all these things. And I really appreciate that. And I love seeing stories depicted about people who look like me. But yes, do it well.
Tackling that question, first I want to say, Ty, great job. Super proud of you. I don't normally like New York dudes, but I like you. One thing I love about Ty is he wins. He figures out a way to win. You know what I'm saying? And he gives us exposure to things that we wouldn't normally have access to in real time. You know. Now, getting to the question that you had, Charles, about ownership versus, I guess, playing with the big wigs and letting them bring us in. Regardless of how it's packaged, in my humble opinion, America operates the same way when it comes to Black people.
In my humble opinion,
we cut a lane for ourselves, and once it gets to a certain height, it's stolen from us. Like, if it becomes popular to the world, then it becomes popular to people that don't look like us, and then they take it from us and then sell it back to us. Or make us have to play over in their yard, right. And call it access. And because of pride, we don't always come back to our community and say, man, they're making me do this. I have to, like, this is the only way I can fund it for me to be able to help us. And we then turn around and call each other sellouts because we're not having the open communication to say, look, we need to support XYZ. Because if we don't, or if we put our money to it, then we can take care of it ourselves. We don't have to let them go over here and then look like they've sold out or do something else. So when it comes to ownership, the only thing that they have allowed us to own is a negative image. They've given that to us for free reign. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can have that. Y'all can be ghetto. Y'all can be ratchet. Y'all can be in the panel discussion, like the guy said. I either want things on a high level or I want some ratchetness, right? There's no in between, which is sad that it's accepted at that level. It doesn't mean that some people don't want the middle ground, but what brings the money is ratchetness, calling women out your name, or somebody shooting somebody or robbing something, right? Or an Obama. And then if you become an Obama, then they question what your citizenship is. And your wife look like a monkey and you look like that, you know what I'm saying?
Like, I heard something very interesting about that. You remember how pro-Black hip-hop was in like the late 80s? Remember that? X-Clan and all that stuff? And so I heard that story, exact thing. Is like, people with money, record companies pretty much up the ante on how ignorant you could get. And then gangster rap, you get paid more. We're going to market that more because God forbid Black people have a positive image, right? So, but yeah, we got to keep this thing rolling.
I have a question. Do we have to go to break?
I think we do. We got guests with.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Piggybacking on what Razor just said, I am curious, and we may not have the answers to this. What makes us so uncomfortable with the middle? You either want ratchet or you want excellence. Don't give me anything in the middle. I effectively just said that a few minutes ago too. What makes us so uncomfortable with the middle?
The middle, you stand alone. You know what I'm saying? The middle, you stand alone. If you're at the bottom with the roots, you got plenty of roots. If you're at the top with the treetops, you got plenty of leaves. Everything, just think of it like a tree. Everything in the middle has nothing. You stand alone so people can look at you. They can judge you one way or another. That's what's
I don't mind the middle, but people will think that you may be like wafering it and you don't
know, you haven't
you don't have
one
solid footing.
Right.
It can be perceived that way. Like, but I get having a good, I think balance is good.
Balance is important, but we're just not allowed to have it openly. That's the problem. You know.
Thank y'all. But Ms. Max, who else we got? Because they got to stay tuned. Not only Mahogany and Friends coming up, but the rest of the show.
Major Bradford and company is joining us because, as Charles mentioned earlier, this is Financial Literacy Month, and we're going to talk about how to manage your coins. I hear Nino laughing at me. And then around 2:00, 2:00 hour. Tom Perriello will be joining us to have a have a discussion with us about his congressional run and his priorities and what he plans to change, how he plans to work on our behalf.
Yeah, and I have a special guest, surprise guest for Razor, Mr. Pastor Adam Coleman from the Point Church, a new brother, part of the Point. He is hosting an entrepreneur workshop, so he's going to join us for Word on the Street at the end to make sure folks know how to get involved. Sounds good, good people. Y'all stay tuned. Right back, Mahogany and Friends. I am HO Talk Show.
I am HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
I am HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
I am HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
I am HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
I am HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
I am HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
As promised, we are joined by some good friends of ours, some young ladies that's doing big things, and they are no strangers here, but we're going to make sure that we introduce them to some and present them to others, none other than Janasia Bradford, Josiah Ruiz, and they are with Mahogany and Friends. Ladies, how y'all doing today?
Woo, good. We're doing amazing, enjoying the weather.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excited to be back.
Thanks.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And so, Janasia, you were on a while ago, not too long, I think last year, I believe, talking about your initiatives, Mahogany and Friends. Josiah was on more recently, earlier this year, and she kind of teased the folks, let them know that y'all had something coming up. So we said, Max was like, well, you got to come on back. Come on back with your sister and talk about the great work that Mahogany and Friends is up to. And so I'm sure folks have heard the name, especially around Charlottesville. Yeah. And probably have seen you out, seen the great work that y'all are doing. But for those who may be unfamiliar, Janasia, because you are the founder and creator, right?
Yeah.
Of Mahogany and Friends. So go ahead and let the people know where this idea and this work, this vision came from.
Yeah, so first I'll just start with who we are. So Mahogany and Friends is a financial literacy ecosystem designed to make money, education, fun, accessible, and culturally relevant. So we started with one book, but that was like our entry point, right? And a lot of people like associate that with us. But we have definitely evolved, and we're so much more now. So on our for-profit side, which is Mahogany and Friends Tiny Investor Club, we operate as a financial literacy ed tech company. So we create curriculums, engaging storybooks, interactive workbooks, journals, dolls, learning tools. We're in the works of doing animation and a digital platform. So our focus there is really helping kids build confidence and be familiar with money early, not just like counting coins, but like real life money understanding. And so I mentioned Tiny Investor Club, and that wasn't something that we had before when I came here. So that's our current platform that we're building to be the continuation of learning. So families can have access to financial education, interactive gamified lessons, and then receive learning kits at home. So the idea of creating this was for the education outside of maybe a book, a workshop, or a classroom can continue happening over time. And then so the other part of our Mahogany and Friends ecosystem is Mahogany and Friends Foundation.
Okay.
So that's our nonprofit side because
Girl, you're doing good when you start.
Able to directly pour into communities.
Okay.
So we serve youth, families, but also adults because they're part of the ecosystem that kids are utilizing at home or part of at home. So our focus areas there are financial security, financial confidence, and then economic mobility. Our programs are hands-on, interactive, and real-life financial learning. So what I really love to say is that we are not reacting to a crisis, right?
Okay.
We're doing work that's preventing it. And we're building security. And that's important because what we found is that most families were never formally taught about money, right? They were just exposed to it maybe by watching their parents or even through trial and error. You know, that's me, right?
Sure.
So
A lot of us.
yeah, so when we see what people are often seeking is culturally relevant information, things that are easy to understand, and something that's delivered in a safe and supportive way. And that's how we deliver financial education. No shame, no jargon, no judgment. We're meeting you where we're at. A lot of organizations, their programs are serving an underlying purpose when they're saying they're doing financial stability, right?
Okay.
This is the core mission of what we do. This is who we are, and we're serving our people and doing it in a way that is understandable. And we're moving them towards real life security and helping them reach their next goals. It's about, go ahead.
I got a quick question for you because I'm gonna lose it. How do you teach our community to go from operating cash to credit? Because I struggled with that myself. I knew how to operate cash really well, but when it came to operating credit and knowing how to utilize it for the benefit of not only yourself but your family, how do y'all teach that?
So we do that a couple of ways. We do it through our workshop. So under Mahogany Parents, we have a workshop, a series called Financial Culture. And under that, we have an in-depth workshop that teaches the importance of credit utilization, how to use it to build your wealth, how to make sure you're paying it back. And then we also, a lot of financial education is based on the individual, right? It should be structured based on them. They're the designers of their lives. We're helping them reach financial stability. So we do one-on-one coaching, and there we really look at your unique picture. Razor, your goals may be different from mine. It's in a workshop. It's hard to teach cash and credit when what's hard for you to understand. I may have a different learning curve. So we do that through one-on-one coaching where we really get to deep dive into their background, understand their goals, understand their family dynamics, what are their emotional triggers behind money or their traumas, and we teach from that standpoint.
Gotcha. I have a question for you.
Well, we got to get to Josiah.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to bring the young lady in here with you because that's what we do it for. I want to give her some shine time. So come on back up here by mommy up here. So introduce the people. Is this Mahogany? No, tell people your name. Rose. Well, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us. Yes. And then you read, and so you read Auntie's books and Mommy's books.
I'm in the book.
Oh, see, that's what. Give me some. Give me a pound. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we do it for right there. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's like what? said. So how would you add to that introduction as far as the role that you play, so folks know why you're passionate about it?
Yeah, I think that financial literacy really matters because it helps build the stability, the confidence, and the opportunity for our communities, especially when it's in an area that we grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
We went through our learnings in these same different types of programs that may have been in this area. So I think with Jay's with her thought process around starting it with just a book, but really creating an ecosystem, it's from her lived experiences, knowing what makes the most sense and how to reach different people. Like how you were saying, Razor, it's about really meeting people where they are. And money is a part of everything that we do. Running a household, running a business, managing a city. If you don't understand money, you can't fully manage it, grow it, or advocate for yourself financially. We aren't always taught that. We're just exposed, and exposure without guidance doesn't lead to healthy financial habits. So that's really where we are at Mahogany and Friends Foundation.
Something I really like, Ms. Max, is that when they mentioned being transformative and not reactive, I believe I heard Janae just say that in the beginning. But when you're doing that, because we all know that that's the best way, starting with the kids, starting early. So it's just a normal part of your routine. But as you're doing that, are you finding the parents becoming more engaged as well? Or do you feel like that may be like another book series that we need just for the parents? Or
yeah, so like I said, we have both sides. The for-profit is really for the children. The nonprofit is where we start educating, and maybe other books or things will come under that, but the nonprofit is really focusing on that. But to answer your question, yes, that's kind of why I decided to start Mahogany and Friends. It is a statistic that shows like 7 to 11, you are most influential on your parents, right? They come home, they tell you about school, you're still their best friend, right? They're sharing things with you. So if your kid is coming home with new information, you're going to want to be that expert or try to learn with them. I remember just my niece. She came home with some homework, and I'm like, oh, let me Google that. Let me research this, So that's the same when we're talking about a money concept. A lot of kids are going home, and when we've done workshops talking about, I can buy Roblox stock and make money. And now parents are like, hey, what's the stock? Let me go reach out to them. And when I was actively practicing financial advising, a lot of my clients would come through because of their kids were dealing with us. And so a statistic I found too why we start early is because your financial foundation is built at the age of 7. And I mean, that's kind of crazy to think about because it's like all of us maybe in this room, we were not exposed to financial education intentionally outside of counting money, right? Nothing around wealth building, maybe no one talking about the budget. Maybe we heard some terms.
What budget?
Yeah, right. Those habits weren't the best.
Yeah.
So instead of passing those bad habits down, or the habits that we didn't even think clearly on or didn't shape for ourselves, let's be intentional as a community and pass down healthy money habits for our kids. We always say, like, this is a funny thing we say all the time, like, you didn't just slap a chapter book in front of your child and told them to read in high school. No, you started with ABCs. We don't just start algebra. You don't just you know how to do algebra. No, you know how to do addition, multiplication, division. All about the foundation. Starting early with them so that they can build the confidence once they are getting that chapter book, once they are getting the algebra problems, they have that foundation built. So that's what's important to us. And that's sure. And she's absolutely right. And that is the same with financial literacy, right? That is a skill that is built upon. We have tools. It's easy to go out to ask ChatGPT something, right? But if you don't have the confidence in the mindset, you're going to break those habits. And so what we decided was we're going to educate our youth, and then the families that need that education as well, we're going to serve as their accountability partner through one-on-one coaching, helping them with the tools and the resources, but also helping them with confidence building. And sometimes a confidence builder is just an accountability partner, holding you accountable to your goals and congratulating you along the way. And that's how our coaching is different.
Yeah. I have a question. And you may have already answered this, but what components of your business should teenagers, can they take advantage of? I hear you say, that 7-Eleven and catching them early and stuff. But speaking quite honestly, there are a lot of kids out here that are doing it on their own. They're figuring it out. They're doing the best they can. And they'd like to learn some of what you're talking about, but don't know where to begin. Where do they start with you?
Yeah, so our nonprofit doesn't just hit 7 and 11. That's where kind of our sweet spot on our for-profit side is. We created this nonprofit to be deliver financial literacy across generations, right? So we do help elementary, middle school, and high school. So we believe middle school is a critical age where that's a time where before they start earning money, they need to be at least getting caught up if they didn't learn it early and start learning some habits. So we have our High Five Savings Program that we're doing this fall with Charlottesville Middle School. We'll be reaching 100 students over 4 cohorts, and that's a 5-week savings program. And that's the first 2 weeks, we're going to teach them the fundamentals of savings, building an emergency fund, needs and wants, what your triggers are, and where to save your money, right? The next 3 weeks, we do community service projects where they get to earn Mahogany bucks, and they get to go into our learning lab and in real time decide if they're going to save, spend, because we have actual products that they can walk away with and go home with. And we have coaches right there in the moment helping them understand the delayed gratification. And then at the end of that program, whatever the child saved up to $100, we will match dollar for dollar up to $100. So kids are walking away with real savings. They all can walk away with a minimum of the maximum of $200. And then we have a family banking day where we include the parents, have a bank partner come in and talk about everything that we learned, and then different accounts that the kids can utilize. So we're not just teaching, we're showing, and we're giving them a resource and a place to save their money. Then in the high school level, we have our First Job Ready program. If you guys are familiar with us, you may have seen us do this at UVA Star Hill Pathways. And that's for rising 9th graders, 10th, 11th, right? And that program is really building around entrepreneurship and the basics of finance, right? So it's going to teach them how to read a paycheck, the different type of bank accounts, the difference between debit and credit, right? How to balance a checkbook or look at your ledger online and make sure it's balanced. We're going to teach them other avenues to earn money, because everyone's career path is not college. And why waste money on that if you have an entrepreneur spirit? And so then we give you the tools and the resource, and we have Keith, who's the pie guy, but also works for the City of Economics. He comes in and does a presentation, and we kind of do like a pitch competition. It's kind of like Shark Tank, right? And they have a couple, like a hour to kind of do that with their group, and they walk away with real funds there. And so those are the programs that we have for older kids.
And it's still meeting them where they are. It's not too heavy for them, so they can still feel confident in starting at that pace, even though they're in high school.
Y'all are a blessing. Yeah, seriously.
To us.
Yeah, right.
And my family, just for it to happen to us. It happened to us for us to be good stewards of what we learned and to uplift our community.
Now look, do you help them, assist them with understanding how to fill out that new hire paperwork, tax forms, and where to write your 1 and your 2s and stuff like that?
I remember getting a job and I didn't put money into a 401k because I had no one to ask about it. I didn't know I owed a whole bunch of tax money because I put all these high numbers because someone said, oh, you don't have to pay any taxes, you put this. So getting kids to understand why things happen is important. And this is a great leeway, and Josiah can take it from here, about our other program that is for younger kids, and that's something that we're doing this April for Financial Literacy Month.
Yeah, so the program that we do for our younger age is called our Budget Does It workshop. And that one is one of my favorites personally, because you really see the kids get into it. So this, coming up in April, it's Financial Literacy Month, and it's our activation. So the dates are April 22nd through the 24th. We traditionally do this at 3 different locations, and we'll be doing it at Cherry Avenue Boys and Girls Club, the Southwood Boys and Girls Club, and the Albemarle County campus. And that's our Budget Does It workshop. So the program is hands-on, interactive budgeting workshop where the students will learn through storytelling, they'll play games, and they'll practice real-life money decisions. So in the moment, they're going to really learn needs versus wants, income versus expenses, budgeting basics, and how to avoid overspending, right? And like our signature activity is our tiny investor skills, where we really use the Skittles for different dominations, right? So each kid will get a bag of Skittles. They'll sit there and decide how much money they have based on the colors of the Skittles, and they make decisions to stay within their budget and to avoid going into a deficit, right? So it's really volunteer heavy based. They sit there, they listen to the book, we explain to them what's going on, and then the volunteers, which are a lot of our community partners, which we're still looking for. So reach out to us if you'd like to volunteer this April 22nd through the 24th. They walk around the room, they hang out with the kids, they help read the page, because again, this is our younger students. We meet them where they are. We're not expecting everyone to sit there and read the whole page or do the math on their own. We have calculators and volunteers to assist. And then some of the additional experiences that they're going to have is like a mock store where they have to prioritize needs over wants. They'll have learning stations where our volunteers are going to be testing their knowledge. And that's a way for them to be able to win more raffle prizes. Raffle tickets. So based on how many, questions they're answering correctly, they'll get more tickets. And then at the end of it, the raffles and the prizes help keep it engaging and really fun. We start calling raffles off and the kids are getting into it. We have a lot of sponsors who give us some toys and some gift bags and a lot of things that keep the kids anticipated, and they all walk away with, which is what makes me so excited about it. We're able to give this to them for free. Then they all walk away with a financial literacy journal, a budgeting workbook, Mahogany and Friends books, as well as a minimum of a $10 starter savings kit. So they're not just learning, they actually leave with tools and their first step towards savings.
What is Mr. Charles over there doing? Mr. Charles, like, okay.
Oh, nothing. Yeah. That, in my humble opinion, was able to have us back today and help us be able to reach out to our community is because we really want to tell you guys that the program is completely free, right? The kids have no cost. The families who are coming to us afterwards saying that their kids brought all this kit home and are having these conversations and thinking differently about budgeting and spending money, completely free to those families. And then for us as a community and as a Mahogany Friends Foundation, it's about $82 per child. Our current gap right now that we're missing is about $7,000. And we're asking our community to help by sponsoring a child, support multiple students if you can. And if you know businesses, if you know organizations, we have those types of sponsorships available. So we're really just inviting the community to help us and making this event possible for our second annual year.
That's
good stuff.
And speaking of the foundation too, what steps have you taken, or how people can reach out to support, to make donations to the nonprofit?
Oh yeah, so mahoganyandfriends.com on everything. If you're on our website, you can either go to mahoganyandfriends.com/foundation, and under our programs you'll see a link under each one under Budget Does It,
which is this one.
Which is this one. That says donate, and it brings you straight to our Zefty link. If you follow us on social media, it's in our bios. So that's how you can donate. And if you are someone who have donor advised funds, you can donate directly from your financial institute to us. And we have those accounts set up.
You can just find us on social at Mahogany and Friends Foundation. We are posting it about almost every day in our story, but we also have it in our bios, or if you follow either one of us socially, we both have it in our bios as well. It's a very easy link. It helps keep the program at no fees being taken out. The platform that we use, we also accept checks as well. Or if you see us out in the community, just let us know that you want to help sponsor a child for this Budget Does It workshop.
And if you want to send a check, you can send it to make it out to Mahogany and Friends Foundation, and you can mail it to 245 Georgetown Way, Charlottesville, Virginia 22901.
Okay.
Nice. And I gotta say, I love the terminology that I hear you all using, because I think it needs to be part of our normal vernacular. In particular, when it comes to like our community organizations that a lot of times are Black and brown led, like we don't understand that foundation world, the nonprofit world, like the grant world. And a lot of terminology that I hear you mentioning, like I hope that that's also part of the curriculum and like part of like maybe some of your books that you may have coming, because like just think about how more powerful we would be as well. If not only did we know we have financial literacy and money management piece, but also understanding like that whole other world, that aspect of like grants and how to raise money from that level. Right?
I totally agree. And that's something that I'm still learning, and I'm thankful for our robust board that we have of individuals who bring a wealth of knowledge. But that is something that we're still learning a lot about. And one thing about me, once I learn it, I'm going to be like, oh, did you know this, and I might turn it into a book, because I do think it is well kept information that should be seen. And definitely I know a lot of people in our community that does great work. And I'm talking about the Black community, and they're not set up as a nonprofit, or they're not knowing how to go about getting funding to create sustainability instead of them using their own money. And it's not about using your own money. You're making community impact. It's about inviting people in to be part of your mission.
There you go. Good
Well,
stuff.
before I let you go, I'm going to ask you a separate question. You two are related, right?
Yes.
You're sisters, right?
Yes.
So how do you, because Ray's and I started a business together, and at times he got on my nerves and I got on his nerves. And at times he knew what was best, and I said my idea was the best. How do you manage all of that, running a successful business?
Great question.
As relatives, and trying to keep the business, at the forefront of everything, and putting aside all of the distractions that may come along with it.
I'll start with that one. Reason that you're into it, especially for me, I give grace because this is something that is like she started and it's her baby. So I, like you said, some people are going to feel like, oh yeah, my idea makes the most sense, and that's okay. I believe that it's about not always having to feel like you're in charge or you're in the forefront. It's more so about listening to your sister, your brother, your person's dream, and wanting it just as bad as them, regardless of where you show up in the mix of it, And I think coming home from Texas, like I told y'all last time, and being able to get behind her and help push this even further, each one of our talents are going to shine regardless. We actually grew up together. Like, we're real sisters. So people ask us this type of question a lot lately. She even just had a conversation about this. How do you handle that? But sisters are going to be sisters regardless. You're always going to have that type of tension sometimes when it comes to important work. But as long as you keep the focus, and like she said, this didn't happen to us for no reason. Our dad passed when she was 7 years old, and my mom was pregnant with me. So that didn't happen for any reason. So when the blurriness gets in there, you just have to remember to stay focused on without the fog, and knowing where you see this in the outcome in the long run is more important than the now.
And I'm happy she said that. Sometimes you don't hear things until people ask a question, and you both are sitting here like, oh, that's your okay, girl, I like talking. But understand, we're here for inspiration, but don't put us on a pedestal. We are sisters, right? So we go at it, but we still love each other. Love is at the end of it. And then I think something for us, while we're building something that is new to us that we've never seen, right, is to take all of the experiences that we've had in life. We've both been in leadership roles inside of companies and lead in nonprofits, different roles, right? And if I was able to do something for a company and communicate or not say nothing for the betterment of me having a paycheck, I can do the same in my business, right? And so I think it's also realizing that this is a business. This is not family business, meaning we are going to conduct this with business first, take the emotion out of it, and deal with the purpose and being mission aligned. And we're going to make each other upset, right? Because we're born from a strong woman and we have strong opinions, right? But it's walking away and knowing like, okay, she didn't mean this in this way. Let's go back and reconvene. And I think something that we're also working on is just having more touch base. No relationship works with lack of communication or lack of meetings. And I think that's what helps for us to stay on the same page.
That's a huge part too. And I think that can dispel that myth of like money and blood don't mix. And you've heard that before. It's because I think a lot of times it's because we have dust ups and we have infighting in families because we wait till it's too late. We don't want to have those tough conversations. But if you have them early on, then you can kind of get through all the muck and the mire and the awkwardness, like instead of waiting until, like
someone's offended.
Waiting someone's offended and also waiting until there's an issue, right? And then we got to figure it out as a family, and then we catching feelings because we should have talked about this a long time ago.
Yes, I love that, Charles, because that's something that I work on because I can come off strong, right? And things can be taken away because, I did start it, but it's all of our journey, right? And I do want my family, I built this to have my family involved and help us. But something I am learning is that you need to speak up first when there is a situation or a behavior, because then when a opportunity touches down and hits your plate, and we're having some of the same foundational problems on a larger scale, I mean, I don't have time to be messing up then. Let's figure this out when it's, a small thing on a smaller scale, because we are going to elevate and be on a national worldwide level. So that's really key for us.
Beautiful. And now, did we not cover anything? Because, I know y'all have the Financial Literacy Month coming up and you got a lot going on. So let's just make sure that we got your hot topics that you want the people to know about.
Yeah. And I just want to leave you guys with some smart money tips, right? So for all the people out there, first start with a budget. That's important. You can't manage what you don't track. You need to understand what's coming in and what's going out. Pay yourself first. I stress this a lot. What that means is setting aside money for yourself before paying your bills, not setting it aside for a want, like, I'm about to go to the club, but setting it aside for a rainy day, when something happens, when an emergency happens. That's what savings is, paying yourself. You first. You worked hard for it. So automate it, even if it's small. $10 adds up to be a big fish, right? Understand really your needs and wants. Like, is this meal that I want to go out to eat really a need? Or am I just wanting that because I have food at home and can go cook? Like that really helps. I know it seems very basic, but a lot of adults, what we've seen in workshops, can't really identify what's a need and a want. They understand it if you talk about it plainly, but when they think about their own things, what's really a need and a want for you and
those examples out.
For you and your life. And then be aware of your emotional spending, like what your spending, what your triggers are, right? That's where you're going to find money leaks. And then the last one is start building your wealth now. You're never too late. I know we always say start early, but start now. If you didn't start early, why aren't you starting now? That's going to put you way more further ahead than if you just wait until retirement.
Yeah.
Okay. Very well said. What you think, Miss Max?
Great interviews. Nothing really left to add to that. I want to thank you ladies for joining us. It is always a pleasure. It is always a pleasure to share the microphone with you and to hear you talk about your business. The passion comes through. If I took you away and just listened to her, it sounds like she knows this business just as much as you do. And that's how you want to run your brand, right? And I just want to thank you. You are a blessing. I call you that because I truly feel that way. And I only can hope and pray that people in this community are taking advantage of the services that you are offering. because they need it. Whether now as families, whether it's young kids coming up, we have to know how to operate with our money so that we can create a better lives for ourselves and those to come.
Yeah.
So,
and I love that you said, I hope people are taking advantage of it, because that's what we want, right? And we want other organizations to not be afraid of partnership with us. We're here to be a part of what you're doing. You already are creating safe spaces. We think every organization should have a financial literacy component, and we're the best people to do it. And why? Because money is what's circulating this world and everything that we're doing.
Yeah. Well, for those who aren't inclined to partner, keep growing.
Yeah.
Keep pushing. And at a certain point, your brand and your business will speak for itself, and they will have to partner with you. Okay.
Right.
So,
We'll claim that one.
yeah.
And thank you guys for having us.
Always,
and just make sure you follow our page on the for-profit side, Mahogany and Friends, on all socials, and then on the nonprofit side, Mahogany and Friends Foundation. So
On Instagram and on LinkedIn.
yeah,
Okay.
easy to find us.
Good stuff. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 1013 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Max.
Thank you, friends. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here with us one more again. I to the Ism, H to the Izzo Talk Show.
That's right.
You can be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us.
That's right, right. Yeah, so we are here. We want to see. Y'all want to ask Max something?
Let's do it.
Razor, what you think?
Yeah.
Should we ask Max?
We had a question or two come in.
We got so many questions. We gotta decide. Like we be in the breaks. Like which one should we fit?
Tell them about the gun line.
I want to make nobody upset with us now. You know, and every superhero needs their theme music, Miss Max.
Should we tell them the two that we're considering before we decide?
Yeah. Maybe Nino can break the tie. But in depth, but you know, like
you ain't biased, is she?
Bad mouth in my generation and how we trust technology too much. Stop talking about it.
So we got two questions on deck. One relates to AI, whether or not it's good or bad. I had a brief conversation about this before, discussion about this before. And the other...
Well, the question was not just is it good or bad, it's like, should we be afraid?
Okay.
is you scared. If you scared, say you scared.
Okay. And then the other is whether or not money is our God. Our as a whole, our as an existence, people in existence.
Yeah, on this fine Sunday.
I mean,
Razor got his church clothes
so
on.
many options.
We can talk about them both in tandem. This ain't my humble opinion. We have that ability. We can do what the next show can't do.
You heard what the man said. Just turn the mic on.
Like even if, because the money is tangible and God is faith. So in today's time where we don't exactly promote God, even on Sundays, I talked about this morning on the body, is that even though Sundays was reserved for faith base, when it comes to the fall of the year, Sundays is reserved for the NFL. So, and money is something that will make you get up out the bed, go sick. People kill over it. You know, I mean, people lie over it.
That's for
you
sure.
know, so is money our God? Yes, it is, whether you want to admit it or not, regardless of how saved, sanctified you are, how proper you are, how much in the gutter you are. We all serve the same God when it comes to that, whether you like it or not. When it comes to your second thing, should we be afraid of AI?
Let's do one time again. Come on.
It doesn't mean that I won't fight against it, that I won't try to do better, but I will realize that, okay, if I'm the only one over here that's not living like that, but everything in my atmosphere is, then that is my reality. So then as I move around with people, I have to know who is allowing me in, especially in our Black elitist area here in Charlottesville. They bring you in according to what money they can make off of you, or what money they can, you know, that you can bring to their atmosphere. That's just the truth behind the matter when it comes to white people.
Right. But when you remember what Chris Rock said, he said, God, you know, like, why else do we put God on money? We want to separate God from everything except we put God and we trust on money. And he said other stuff too. That's
now, let me say about the white people part, because I don't want everybody to be like you jumping on black people. And when it comes to white people,
let me talk about white people.
How high we can jump. Like, the only reason they bragging on LeBron being 41 years old jumping the way that he is because of the money that he brings in for the Lakers. Because we all know in the Black community, we know people that was playing at the basketball courts that had some age to them that could still get down and go. So
I thought you were going a different direction with that too, because of the money that he has as well, he's able to keep his body in a 21-year-old shape instead of a 41-year-old shape, or 31-year-old shape. He can't quite 20.
To
but
be
you follow
honest
what I'm
with
saying?
you, but
like even
what he has done is prevent himself from eating the fast food and things. Really, he's not working his body any harder than our great grandfathers were out there chopping wood and working in the
well, all plays a part. You know, like, a top-notch chef, but he ain't got to buy cheap stuff.
But that's the thing, though, Charles. A garden costs 6 cents a pack of seeds, and if you were to take the care of the land that your grandparents left you, you had the place to be able to go in your backyard. Like, you remember they used to give you a salt shaker and you go out there and get a tomato and that was your snack for the day. Or you drank water out of the creek or spring or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So the things that they have allowed us to believe that we have to pay for was once free. So all LeBron is doing is exiting out all of the comforts of life, the fast food restaurants, the ordering, and just having somebody cook for them. It used to be our wives that cook for us like that. Now it's a chef.
Yeah, totally get that. Like, but I think that, like, that you are fantasizing about it a little bit though, because it's about access too, and access sometimes come with the resource that you have available. Like, that's why the whole food co-op thing is about money too. When we talk about what's accessible to our community, like we have the most accessible stores to our community, where poor people that don't have as much money, they usually get the junk stores. They ain't getting the Whole Foods.
But the same people that we're talking about that don't have access, let's say, well, I don't want to say because I'm trying to actually do things with that particular area, but You can go down the highway and see people from Africa over there bent over, milling the land, growing their vegetables. You understand what I'm saying? So while we're saying that we don't have access to be able to grow these things, we have people coming into our community that because they might can't speak our languages, they might have limited access to their own personal stores, we give them a plot of grass to be able to grow their own vegetables and cultivate their own land. But yet we will talk about that we don't have access to something and everybody in the house got an iPhone. Like it makes no sense to me. So it's where we decide to put our dollars at in our value at, and it's become acceptable. I mean, that's just the way I see it.
That's more what's acceptable. Yeah, for sure. Like I know Max normally closes the segment out. Like I know she got a lot to say. It's your segment, you can interject whenever you want. But I did want to say though is that there was one caveat to this question, like that I saw that I made it and communicate to y'all though, is that like this question is also talking about the country, right, and like the actual government, and why it's so protected. The money, why money is so protected in a country that has always put up a facade of being a Christian nation, Christian values, things like that, pretended like that was the majority of people and how they voted and what things they voted on. So, but the thing is, we're in like a war right now and other things going on in the world that looks like the majority of the country disagrees with. And if you pull the curtain back, the wool back, there's business deals behind all of it. And I think if we're honest, that generally has always happened. Like you follow the money trail. I personally believe that whenever you're looking for an answer in most things, you follow that money trail. That being said, why do we believe that is? Why are we so comfortable with that? Just like I was kind of surprised on how comfortable you were like, well, yeah, fact is money is like our God, because that's what we put at the end of the day. But I feel like that if we know something is wrong, then we also should put the energy into changing it and not just accepting it. And I think that also needs to be reflective in us as a society. Like I think that we are really like we have a spiritual warfare right now. We really have a spiritual, like more so than ever. And I sound old, right? Don't every generation say that? Like it's the end of the world. Like it is the end times. We've been hearing that our whole life, right? But man, though. But it's like how blatant. I feel like it does get more blatant and blatant every generation. But that is the thing, though. It's like that's my interpretation of this, and like that's what I want to ask Max and Razor is like, where are we at when it comes to? Are we just comfortable with that? Like, yeah, money rules the world. Instead of it being the tool that it's supposed to be within society, we have let that now control every single decision to where that's what wars are started for. That's how people are voting. That's every decision I make from the time that and I'm saying, like not me, figuratively me, proverbially is from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, every move we make is generally surrounded by, am I losing money by doing this or am I making money by doing this?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's I think it's both. I think it's a tool and it's a device. Like it's like a gun or a shovel or like what are you going to use it for? And I think that because of technology and the expectation of we wanted to give our children better, because we might have had it harder than them in some instances. Not all of us, but some of us had it harder. So you made easier times for your kids, which made your kids lazy and made them entitled. And then our children's children are either going to have to live with their grandparents or it's just going to be really, really bad, because I see very few children who can literally take over a family, even though they're adults. I see more kids in their 20s that are how we would act about our 10-year-olds, the way parents take care of their children. You understand what I'm saying? Like the things that they didn't allow them to experience. So when it comes to money, I think that money gives you certain access to people looking at you certain ways online. So in that makes life to where nothing's going to change until things get like really, really bad. And it's going to take a catastrophic war of sorts to be able to reset everything, because there is no going back up this hill that we just slid down, in my mind. So I think things are going to get worse to the point that you pretty much have to blow it up in some form or fashion. I don't know what that looks like in order for us to rebuild, because to be honest with you, we were a better nation right after COVID. Right after COVID, we understood how to communicate with family members inside your house. We understood how to work with less. We understood how to get out there and appreciate things that we had. And now we're worse off now than we were prior to COVID, because now we understand that we can survive a bad situation. So, yeah, that's my take.
In my humble opinion.
My remarks are probably going to summarize a lot of what the two of you have said. Question is whether or not money is our God, the nation that is our God. And my thoughts are that God is God for a lot of people, and money is money for a lot of people. Individuals know who God is and when to summon him, depending on the situation, right? Our president knows that despite how much power he says that he has and how much the way that he wields his decisions, he, even if only making these decisions for television views, knows when to call in individuals to pray over him. We know that when we deal with a catastrophic event, a death, something that life-saving measures need to take place, we call on God to help us. We talk to God when they bless their food. People call on God when, I don't know, they have a moment of silence, and they connect their moment of silence at times in different public events to a brief moment of meditation with whatever it is that they view as the higher power. I think that we do view God as God, whatever that is for you. But money is what rules our world.
That's a good way to put it.
It stresses us out when we don't have enough. It determines whether or not we got food to eat and clothes to wear. It determines whether or not we have a roof over our head. It determines
whether you got a woman or not.
Whether or not we're thinking about how the city is run, what's built here and where it's built at, and which forces can come up against certain decisions when all of those things come into play. It determines where you live at. It determines where your kids go to school. It determines your level of health care. Everything about our lives is determined by money. And so I think that we do keep the two separate to a degree. I'm not saying that balance, if you will, is the correct way of doing things. But I think individuals know who God is, but money is what rules their life. Money is not their God, but money is what rules their life.
I gotta say, I feel like y'all dancing.
No, I ain't dancing. I'm trying to make sure that.
And I get that y'all are being professional at the same time, though.
Yeah.
But I want to be straight, point, period, and blank. Whatever controls your decision makings is your ruler and your end all be all. I don't care how we try to cut it up in here.
Oh no, I'm with you on that, 100%.
If it controls your decisions. So in other words, if you know something is right, holy, godly, but I'm not going to do that because I might lose money, then you've made your choice.
I understand the point you're making, Charles. And for the people in this room and a lot of our listeners, that makes sense. Okay. And it is biblical. But you have to understand, you have to take into consideration the mindset of the people in the world today. And I think that they do separate what they consider as God in their life and money ruling their life. I don't know if that came across earlier, but they do separate the two. I'm not saying that it's right, but I think they look at it differently.
I think they're so tightly entwined. I think you're right, but I also think you're right that they in one pocket and the other. Which one you're gonna pull out when you need to? Even in, and I say this in the most respectful way, even in churches, they ask you for the 10th, your tithe, your orphanage, or whatever, before they give you the sermon. You know what I'm saying? That's the first thing. So money is in everything. Money is not separated. In my world, money is not separated for anything.
So I got to say though, I don't necessarily see that as automatically a bad thing though. If
no, I'm not saying right. Was it bad? You asked, was it your God? Or what did it lead your decision? That doesn't mean that it's bad, right?
Because I agree that it can be involved, but it shouldn't control the decisions.
Well, there are a lot of people that make healthy decisions based off of the fact of if it's going to lose them money or not. Like, I will get up and go to work when I'm sick. So my kids can go to private school, or I can do this, or I'm not going to commit crimes because if it takes me away from my family loses everything. I might want to do this, but I won't do it. You know, so money doesn't always have to work for bad, even though it might be your driving force. And like you said, if it's your driving force and controls you, it is your God. So both of y'all are saying the same thing. Y'all are just saying it from one is talking from the left hand, one is talking from the right, but it's the same thing in today's time.
And I just wanted to make people just aware of like how comfortable we become with that though. And I get it. I get like that, you know, like the devil is roaming the earth, seeing who he may devour, right? Like, so I get that systems are just evil. Like, we just live in corrupt environment and systems. That being said though, it's like at some point, you know, I guess spiritually, we just have to wake up and realize that the love of it is in fact the root of all evil. Because when you love it, it then controls you to do things that you know otherwise that you would not be doing. Like, to me, that's the whole point.
But all of it ain't the devil though. That's
but I think love, because when you love it, that's when it becomes your control.
No, I'm with you on. I'm 100%. The Bible says that, so I can't dispute that. But I'm saying that I don't think that all of it is the devil, because God gave us free will. You have a choice. Now, if you make the choice yourself, like sometimes the devil get credit for things he ain't even doing. So if you make the choice to do something, if I make the choice to cuss y'all out and then come back and say, look, hey man, that was a good show. Y'all like, man, look, I ain't really trying to talk right now. Like, you kind of offended me, the person. Well, I was trying to get the ratings. Look at the ratings. Yeah, but you damaged what we're doing here. It's the same thing with making choices or talking bad to the people that's connected to you, that you may be doing things for money to take care of them, but if you're tearing them down in the process, it's all bad. So like, everything ain't the devil. I think black people look have a bad problem with accountability when it comes to God, devil, and decisions. And we can blame it on slavery, we can blame it on oppression, we can blame it on the administration, we can blame it on anything else. But if you had the choice to make a decision, I don't care really what other people outside of black people do. As a black community, when you make a choice, it is up to you what choice you make. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may say, look, I had to steal that soda so I could feed my kids. You also had the chance to go out there and stand at the stoplight for 8 hours with a can and a sign.
I mean, everybody deserves some grace.
So you know, if you didn't make a choice and something happened, that's when grace should be administered. But if you made a choice to, like, say, take your money and spend what you want and then beg me for what you need, that ain't no grace.
And that's difference, like, between like a physical realm and like a spiritual realm.
All right, let's say spiritually. Let's say spiritually. If you know that sitting around looking at vampire movies all day, watching people shoot and cuss that diminish our neighborhood, and then you make all these choices to put all this into you and put it into your kids, and you're old enough to not go out here and do it, and then your kid is running around at 13 years old and the teacher telling you that they're a bad kid and they're hanging out and then they do something, you made a choice a long time ago to allow your child to not operate as a child.
Yeah,
and then you want everybody to come along and give you grace for your child when they give them 20 years.
At some point, the people get around too.
With what both of you have said, both of you have spoken a lot of truth. I think that grace especially comes into play when an individual just doesn't know any better. And hopefully the longer they live, they do know better so that they can make better decisions. But there are some situations, and I know you and I disagree on this sometimes, where a person just doesn't know what they don't know. So they're making a decision from that place.
Charles, don't try to use that.
But to get back, back to the original question, I definitely agree with what Charles mentioned about money being people's gods. And I want to be very clear about that. I just chose to explain it differently to hopefully reach people in a different way for them to understand.
You give them hope.
That when I wasn't given hope, I want them to understand how I think the majority of people are viewing God and money, right? But no, I go to church, I pray, I think God is my God. I do this, I sing, I watch sermons on TV. My God, He's my God. Horrible situation, I know who to go to. You know, need to make a big decision, I know who to go to.
So
but on the other hand, money is what is driving every decision that they are making. They have to understand that if money is the core of where all decisions are made, then money is effectively being used as their God.
Let me ask you this, Max. If you, let's say you, Charles, me, were standing out there telling people about salvation, eternal life, and all the good things, and somebody else was standing over here, right, with snakes wrapped around their neck, beer bottles, cocaine pipes, everything else, but they had $1 million sitting down at their feet that they was throwing out to people. Which one do you think that people are going to listen to, whether they got a money need or not? The majority, not everybody. I'm not saying exactly. I'm just saying in today's time, money has become so influential that person can be sitting there with everything that you know is going to shorten your life. But I have the opportunity to have access, or just sometimes not even access, just be around the person that has the money, right? To make it look like I'm with somebody that's doing something in life, or you have the salvation for yourself, your family, and everything else.
Well, I just said it's money drives their decisions.
No, I'm saying,
so they're going to go get the $1 million is at the man's feet with the snakes around
let's
his
say
neck.
they don't have not one money need whatsoever. I still feel like
so I disagree. I mean, there's going to be some, but I don't think that's going to be.
If it had to be, if we had 10 people to judge from, I'm unfortunately thinking that the majority of people are going to want to, even if they have zero needs, family, healthy, everything. If that person has that much money or an abundance of what they consider money, they are willing to listen to what this person says because it could possibly give them access to what they had.
And that's essentially what we're talking about. But that's essentially what we're talking about, though, is that's the problem. And I think that's why the question is asked, because the scenario you just gave is what we need to have serious conversation about and rethink why we are so comfortable feeling like the majority of people will choose death and destruction, even if I don't have to.
I don't think it'll change.
That's a problem.
I think the cycle is Sodom and Gomorrah, and you name it.
Why do we accept that? That's what I'm saying. We've accepted.
I think it's our season. I think it's our season. You have cycles and you have seasons. Cycles, you go along with them as they happen. Seasons, seasons of stuff that you go along with as it happens. As wintertime, you put on a coat. Sometimes you put on short. Cycles is like a washing machine. Those cycles are beating on you constantly, and you're stuck in that cycle. I think that death, destruction, following ways that are not of God are seasons in the course of humanity. So that's just my personal thought.
Well, that's true. Your question has a biblical answer.
Always.
That I don't know that a lot of people are open to hearing or can hear or willing to hear. all those things. That's why we accept it.
Right. Yeah, because we're supposed to be set apart. Like, and that's sort of my issue. Like and the reason I'm kind of still chiming in about this is that it's like, yes, the world may be what it is, and things may be corrupt. Our government may be corrupt. The majority of people may be wayward. Yeah. That may be the case. Yeah. But at what point do we set ourselves apart? Because we're supposed to be set apart.
No,
so
I don't believe that, Charles. Because if we the salt of the earth. When that season is done and the next season starts, there is no separation from the two. If we're not in the midst of all the bad stuff, even though we might be the minority, there cannot be nothing for God to work on. So we cannot set ourselves apart. Somebody has to be in the highways and byways and in the mud. You know, it can't be all of us. Right?
No, I don't think you get what I'm saying. Like I'm talking about the mindset. I'm talking about the approach, the way that we approach things. All I'm saying is that it is not okay to be like, well, that's just what everybody doing, so I'm gonna do it too.
I know.
Majority of people not going to do what they should do, but the set apart part is that I think different. We're supposed to think. We're supposed to move different.
Something different to follow.
Okay.
I don't think that it can be set apart. Mentally, yes, we can all be sitting next to each other and think totally different. But if I want you to do better, you have to have an example that you can follow, even if, like Max said, you're not ready to accept it. But if it's not there, you'll never have something that you can aspire better to.
I feel you there. Miss Max, we up against how you want to close this thing? Miss Max,
I don't know. I don't know. We do.
Okay.
So.
I love it.
You gotta take
us.
All
right, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll have more conversation here on In My Humble Opinion with congressional hopeful Tom Perriello.
Great job, y'all.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles Miss. IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard, even if
decided to come talk to us about joining in public office once again, becoming a servant of the people. Not that you ever stop becoming being a servant of the people. I want to say that because I know you've still been around, but to run for Congress again after being away for a few years, what was that process like? What's the maybe the revigorated passion for wanting to be in Congress?
Well, look, it's unfortunately some of it's just out of anger. I mean, we're looking at when I see people getting pushed off of healthcare, when I see people's wages being cut, when people can't afford groceries for their kids, we've seen electric bills double. People are working not just as hard, they're working twice as hard, and they still can't make it paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. And 15 years ago, we passed Obamacare. I was happy to vote for that to start to bring those healthcare costs down. Mm-hmm. And when I see John McGuire and Ben Klein and these guys sit there and cast a vote, not just to hurt the poor and the working class in terms of healthcare, mm-hmm. but also the middle class, because all that cost of the uninsured gets moved to the middle class. So, right. My dad got a scholarship to come to UVA, growing up poor in West Virginia. For him, this was the mecca of the American dream. And that meant if you worked hard, play by the rules, you could get your family into an economically secure situation. Mm-hmm. And that dream has been torn to shreds by Trump, by the people around him, and by some of the corporate interests that control Washington. And at a certain point, when I'm in a position to make a difference on that, then I have a moral obligation to try to make a difference on that. And that's why I felt like running for Congress this year was not just a chance to give this area better representation, but to try to get that majority, to get that gavel back in the hands of people who care more about everyday folks than the powerful interests.
Gotcha. So I have to ask this question, and I think this sort of can set the stage, as we go into the actual topics and issues. One thing that I've heard consistently, when we look at our current political climate, is that there's some people that like the raw honesty. Some people believe that we have a government that doesn't work. It may be corrupt in some people's eyes. And so they're like, well, at least Trump is just being who he is and he's not faking for anybody. We hear that, right? And things like that. So I'm curious your take on how we kind of, how can we get the validity back, right? And the honor back to politics when it looks like right now anything goes. You can say anything and get away with it. You can be a felon and be president, right? All that kind of stuff. Right?
Look, I think on some level, Donald Trump has been very clear, both in his words and his actions, that the only thing he cares about is making him and his sons rich. Like, we are known by our actions, right? And if you look time and again at what he does, what he prioritizes, it is kickbacks for his family. So if you look at these tariffs, as you know, I had the honor of representing the United States as an international peace negotiator. President Obama asked me to help lead those talks in the Democratic Republic of Congo, later in the Sudan. So I've done these international negotiations, and it's about leverage and it's about priorities. You want to go into those meetings with some leverage over people, and you want to use them to get, peace or to secure something in the interest. These tariffs are money out of all of our pockets, stolen out of our pockets, so that Trump has leverage with these countries. And what he's using it to do is get another hotel for himself and to get $1 billion of crypto for his sons. So he's very clear, it's out in the open. He is using all of us as leverage for his family. And we can see that in the negotiations. You have deals with countries where he's been access to high-end artificial intelligence chips that are very important to. And he sold access to them for $500 million for something that is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. So he is consistent that what he's trying to do is make his family rich at the expense of the American people. And I think what we're seeing is that the American people are pretty sick and tired of that. And you see that with this war as well. If you look at food prices, right? It already costs crazy amounts of money to go to the grocery store. It's getting more expensive to go out to a restaurant. And that's partly, a lot of that has to do with the tariffs he's done. So China responds, and they cut off a bunch of the fertilizer that our farmers need in order to grow the rest of the food, the rest of the world. Then he goes and bombs Iran, and they start to blow up the things in Qatar where the rest of the fertilizer is made. So we've seen a doubling in fertilizer prices, which means all of us are going to be paying more for food for a whole nother year. We already feel it at the gas tank, but you're also going to feel it at the grocery store because Donald Trump is out there starting these wars instead of looking out for the American people. And I've been in those rooms. I know how those negotiations work. And I know that we need a fighter for this area that is going to say no to the billions of dollars we're wasting overseas, so that we can put that money towards things like expanding Medicaid, better health care for Americans, better home care for our seniors who are aging and their abilities to age in place. And when we have a government that actually works for the people, then we can try to make that American dream affordable again.
Yeah, thank you for that. Ms. Max.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that you and other people running for office are also faced with, contending with, is just individuals not being hopeful in the vote. And many people are just kind of holding their breath, hoping they can survive this administration and come out on the other end of it. And as you said, this always kind of leads back to money, but how will things ever work for us if those people in power, Trump's constituents, those in his administration, are kind of willing to sell their integrity, even though, they know that the decisions they're making, actions they're taking are going to impact Trump and his family and give them an advantage there. So what's it worth to us? Why do we vote? Why do we vote for you? And how is it going to change the trickle down, I'd say, especially when we're talking about the low income, impoverished individuals that reside right here in the city of Charlottesville?
All right. So that's like 4 really important questions. And let's tell 2 stories that are both true at the same time. Okay. The attacks on voting rights under the Trump administration have been horrific. I spent 4 years helping to run organizations in the first Trump administration, trying to oppose those attacks on voting rights, trying to help expand voting rights, including during COVID, when there was a lot of complications of how to vote. And we saw incredible creativity at the community level on how to respond. We see not just the traditional attacks, primarily targeted at the Black community on voting. We now see a SAVE Act that's a way to make it harder for women to vote, particularly divorced women. That's one story, and it's very real. But there's another story we have to remember, which is that elections matter. And because of electing pro-democracy Democrats in Virginia, Virginia now has actually expanded voting rights. And we need to remember the hope side of this equation. So 10 years ago, Virginia had a Jim Crow era limitation on voting. It was extremely difficult. One of the most difficult states in America to vote in, particularly to vote early. With the leadership of Jen McClellan when she was in Richmond, I helped to elect a young, diverse group of delegates back in 2017. There was a series of reforms that now means you have lots of early voting options. That means if Trump and his team try to do, send ICE to cities to scare people to vote, there's more mail options, there's more early vote options.
Okay.
So we absolutely need to be vigilant. And that's why I've devoted a number of years to trying to fight this voter suppression effort.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to keep hope. I was going to say keep hope alive, which I guess is timely.
Mm-hmm.
We have to remember that in the context of saying there are positive stories to tell here.
Okay.
People who hold actual power in Richmond who have expanded those voting rights. When we elect, Spanberger and Jay Jones and Hashmi, that means there are people in Richmond who do care about democracy and want that to happen. So on the democracy point, we need to remain vigilant, oppose these efforts. And I think we should be prepared that this fall, Trump may try things that we haven't seen before. There's a second issue here, which is that your listeners right now have an opportunity to vote on a referendum to change our Constitution that is going to level the playing field for the midterm elections. Between early voting is on, it goes till April 21st. Texas, on Trump's direction, rewrote their maps for Congress, and they did two things with that. One, they put almost all the black and brown people into a few districts so that they would silence better representation for communities of color. And two, they made them highly Republican districts in a way that means Congress might be able to stay in Republican hands, even though a majority of Americans want Congress to change and they want to check on Donald Trump. Virginia's making this move now to level that playing field. It also means we'll have a more competitive district here in Virginia, which means the chances are, again, that voters will have that power to send that signal. So we're seeing Democrats willing to fight back against these attacks on our democracy.
Yep. And can you talk a little bit more about that? Because you have to vote by April 21st, right?
That's correct.
All right. Can you talk more about how that process to vote by April 21st?
Sure. So the General Assembly in Richmond made a decision to send this to the voters. That's very, very important. It's in the hands of the voters. This is not a backroom deal like they tried to do in Texas. If a majority of Virginia before April 21st vote yes on this amendment, we will have the new maps for the midterms, and this area has a much better chance of being well represented, as well as that majority nationally being represented in Congress. There's early during the week, during office hours at the county office building out on 5th Street Extended. There are options to go online and get by mail voting, and then people can vote in person on the 21st. Charlie, you might call up all the things so that we can get that out to the listeners with exact detail. But you've probably seen the advertisements on TV with President Obama urging people to vote yes. This is an important aspect. And if we don't do this, and Texas gets away with rigging the elections and silencing black and brown votes, there's a much better chance we're going to see more states across the South do the same thing after the Supreme Court moves on the Voting Rights Act, as is expected to happen. So it's very important for us to draw a line in the sand now and say we need that level playing field for Congress.
Hey, Razor, before you go that direction, I wanted to elaborate because you mentioned black and brown people. I'm not sure what, where exactly you were going with it, but then I didn't want to lose that point that he just mentioned because a lot of things are very racially charged right now. Like a lot of the decision making is behind that. So one school of thought that's out there is that a lot of what we've seen, like with the rise of Trump, has been backlash to the Obama administration. Like we see how he will try to get rid of affordable health care and then try to do implement the same things, or how get rid of like the nuclear deal with Iran and then say, well, we're trying to fix to make sure that they don't harm the world with nukes. Being that you were so closely intertwined with the Obama administration, I'm curious your take on that, about how we pull back, how we get back to being happy again that we had the first ever, black president. You know what I mean? Instead of it being something where it's like, oh, now America has to be made great again because like these guys messed it all up. You know what I mean? And a lot of that seems racially charged. So I'm curious how do we pull back from this? Some people say it's too late, Tom. I gotta be honest with you. I've heard some people say Trump is taking us so far, there's no way we're getting back to center.
Well, first of all, we call Donald Trump reactionary for a reason. Reactionaries are reacting to something. And he was a reaction to progress. He was a reaction to this country finally starting to live up to its creed and aspirations. that was in who we were electing, but also the way we told the American story. We were telling a more accurate history. You saw difficult but long overdue conversations, whether that was the issue of accountability for police violence against particularly young Black men, whether that was the monuments we had here in town to Confederate losers who had been enslavers and part of an evil cause, still being celebrated today. These were useful conversations, and I think most Americans looked at that and said, this is good that we are moving forward and being a more beloved community that takes more seriously equality under the law for all. Trump was a reaction to that. I think it is true that the first time he won, there was a sense of that being a temporary setback. And I don't think there's any sugarcoating that the second time he won, it felt more like maybe this is just who we are.
Yeah.
But you got to look at that globally. When he won the second time, incumbents all over the world were losing. Right-wing incumbents were losing, left-wing incumbents were losing. There was a post-COVID hangover on inflation that was seen globally across that. And Trump, as he's often done, rides waves that he hasn't created to his own maximum self-enrichment. And I think what we've seen in the last year is the vast majority of Americans do not like what Trump's doing. They do not think he's doing a good job. They do not like the idea of mass federal agents coming into our cities with impunity and shooting Americans and killing moms. People do not like the prices going through the roof, and they do not like this war. So I think it is very important for us not to internalize the idea that somehow, this country is headed back to that vision. I think this is remains a difficult transition to a more just and inclusive and historically accurate America. I think there's some things that are also bigger than Trump, which we'll probably come back to, which is if you look at artificial intelligence and the way that it could threaten jobs across a whole bunch of sectors, that's not Trump's fault. Trump is just the thing standing in the way of our country having a smart approach to say, how are we going to help people transition into this new economy? And so the tragedy of Trump isn't just the division he creates and money that he wastes bankrupting the country. It's also wasting time our country doesn't have to be coming together for better solutions of how we're going to build into this. And I will say something that transcends race. I mean, I happened to see a clip of Obama at the National Correspondence Center the other day, and it was just nice to have a president who spoke in complete sentences. Right. It was nice to have a president who, when he stood in front of a microphone, I wasn't worried about what he might say the next second. And that was sometimes true of, President Biden as well. We had not just the first Black president, we just had a man of discipline, a man of substance. And you don't have to agree with him on every issue to feel like the country was in good hands. If you talked about the Iran deal and people, on the right gave him some grief for some sanction relief to Iran as part of that deal. But it was a small amount of relief that was in exchange for them setting back their nuclear program and preventing a war. Trump just gave 10 times as many concessions to Iran and got nothing for it. He's already got a war, and it had no impact on the nuclear program. He's just giving them the money. So you think about the difference between, for all the art of the deal stuff, Trump doesn't know how to negotiate his way out of a paper bag. And, President Obama, whether it was the healthcare system at home, very complicated. He had the guts to take that on. Whether it was something like an Iran nuclear deal, very complicated, had the guts to take that on. And so I think that, that's going to age well in terms of what it means to have someone of substance and discipline, in the job. So I do believe there's reason to have hope. I think the difference in my life running now versus before is before I thought it was almost predestined that the arc of history would bend towards justice. It's just the nature of the country. The nature of history will be. Yeah. I don't believe that anymore. I believe it's a choice. I believe it's a question for each generation of whether we step up and say, not on our watch, we're not going backwards. On our watch, we're going forward. A couple of weeks ago was the 61st, I think, anniversary of the Selma March. When those guys got up, and I should say women, because a lot of it was women-led, they knew they were going to take a beating that day. They knew what was waiting for them on the then named Edmund Pettus Bridge. And they said, we are going to march there. because we are going to demand that the arc of history go a different way.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't passive, it was active. And I think right now, that's probably what's been most inspiring to me on the campaign trail,
Mm-hmm.
is hearing from people who are working in their community to help families that have been torn apart by ICE, people who are finding a way to help those who become unhoused because they couldn't afford their electric bills. It is horrific that John McGuire and Ben Klein are kicking people while they're down, but our community is still responding. People find a way to help neighbors, and they find a way to fight back. So I think we need to find that hope that doesn't come from like, a probability. It comes from ancestors. It comes from a deeper faith space. That's what I think we're up against right now. And I can tell you, the more time I spend with people, the more hopeful I get. The more time I spend with pundits, the more I want to punch myself in the face. So I think we just got to tune out some of the news and the punditry and actually remember that in our communities, people want an inclusive space and they want to build that sense of community.
So you said inclusive, and Raise, I know you got something. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that I heard you mention, you allude to, and Governor Spanberger, when she was on, realizes the importance of it as well, and how it's part of the nation's fabric to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. That's not a bad thing. But with the federal government that we have still in place, how do you see navigating that? Like even within Virginia, we want to make sure that all feel included and welcome. But the federal government is saying, well, University of Virginia, you're not going to get that money unless you remove these programs. You don't let these student groups exist. Those kind of things. Like, how can we dance around all that? As a state.
Yeah, we don't dance. We stand. I think we take a stand and say, which of these things do you not like? Do you not like diversity? Do you not like equity? Or do you not like inclusion? And stop creating a straw man argument that you want to argue against. Tell us what your problem with the system is. And if there is a legitimate problem of some reason, then that can be dealt with. But I think we've seen, this is not some left-wing agenda. This is something we've seen in corporate America and other spaces that, when you have these programs, you get better candidates, you get a better work environment, you get a more interesting space to be. And it's not just code for jobs for Black people. These are programs that have helped veterans. It's helped rural people based on class, people from different backgrounds. And, what I see across the Blue Ridge is people want to be in communities of diversity. I mean, you look at a place like Harrisonburg, where James Madison is, you also have the Mennonite community there, and they've been relocating refugee and asylum seekers for 40 years. I have friends I know from Congo and from Afghanistan there, and it makes it a more interesting and vibrant community. So I think it's important for us not to back down from articulating that image of a beloved community that we want. I also think it's important to win. The day after, not just Spanberger, but also Jay Jones took office, it affects that university because the general counsel at the university answers to the attorney general. And it was Jason Miyares who cost this area tens of millions of dollars. Youngkin likes to talk about his tax plan. It was effectively a huge tax hike to give this guy the golden parachute, to cost this research and development money. And that's what they were going after. They were going after research into diseases, research in innovation and technology. And anyone who thinks this was actually about DEI or actually about anti-Semitism, look, this community does not need to be told that violent anti-Semitism is a problem. I was in the streets on that August day when we had neo-Nazis here facing off against these guys. That is a very real and present threat, and we stood strong as a community, Black, brown, and white, against that invasion from hate groups. So let's take that part seriously, but let's let our institutions of higher learning be strong institutions of higher learning. And that part of that's going to be by making sure it's a diverse and inclusive space.
Agreed.
I'm going to take the interview in a little different direction. Generally, politicians are always saying how they want to help the families. By you representing Virginia, are there certain issues that are like death to a campaign? So let's say, for instance, if we were to take like the JDR system, when it comes to family court or child support, whether it's a custodial or non-custodial parent, it seems that no politician really if they want to help the American family, they would put more of a mandate or restraints on how the court system handles the money that transfers from one parent to another, especially if you expect the child to have a good life living from one parent to the next. So my question would be, are there any subjects that really politicians don't like to tackle when it comes to statewide stuff, even though they're always saying that they want to help the Virginia families or the American families? But if we're starting with the American families, we're starting with the finances in there, not just the groceries or the gas, but actually how the money is transferring from the broken households that we have inside of Virginia.
Let me come at that a couple different ways. So one, a lot of the JDR issues are at the state level, not the federal level. So I'll still speak to them, but this is really at the congressional level. Two, I think on judicial reform more generally, before we get into the custodial issue, I think what you've seen is even with this question of whether we've moved backwards or not, while there's been a backlash rhetorically to some of the focus on criminal justice reform of a few years ago, of moving from a highly over-incarcerated approach to decriminalization of some issues like marijuana and moving away from the sort of mandatory minimum approach. If you look at the polling on the issue, it actually is still quite popular, even with Republicans, to be looking at a more intelligent and compassionate approach to justice in these situations. You've seen more prosecutors willing to use their discretion in more cases. And I think that's for a variety of reasons, including how many more families across racial lines have been impacted by, time spent in the criminal justice system in one form or another. So I think overall that augurs for people wanting to take, giving some flexibility there. And the flexibility there is where I'll come to your issue. And I honestly don't have a great answer for you on the substance of it.
Okay.
What I can tell you is on the federal policy level, what is difficult is where you are trying to write a law for all scenarios, right? And particularly in family court matters and custodial matters, there's an enormous amount of a judgment call that judge is making. And so, or the judicial advocate or whoever is involved in that particular process. So I think one of the challenges is when you're trying to set a law for an entire country, you then either need to write it in a way that gives people a lot of flexibility, but that leaves room for that individual potentially to abuse that or make bad discretionary calls, or you're trying to make a really very clear bright line rule at the federal level, which then means that individual arbiter or whoever's involved in that court is not able to look at the situation and say, well, but in this case, this really doesn't make sense here because this about the father or the others or the rest. So having not worked in that space, I don't think I can give you a better answer on the specifics. What I can tell you is that I think, we had swung from a lot of discretion through the 80s and 90s to these very draconian mandatory sentencing directions from the federal government, back to the issue of saying perhaps there should be some room for second chances and the rest in other areas. But I'm not going to be able to give you a better direct answer on that.
I can respect that.
Yeah. And go ahead. So we are talking to Virginia in its 5th district, right?
So it's a good question.
Yeah.
So in 2010, we lost that by a few points. Currently, I'm running in the current 5th district and the proposed 6th district. So this comes back to this constitutional.
So that vote's going to make a big difference. Okay.
Yeah, well, about half the district's the same, really. In both districts, you have Charlottesville, Albemarle, Fluvanna, Nelson, and then you have, Lynchburg, Amherst, Bedford areas. And so in the current 5th, that district continues down to south side, to Danville, Halifax, South Boston, over to Goochland. In the new district, it goes west to Waynesboro, Stanton, and Harrisonburg, and then Roanoke, Salem, Blacksburg, and Radford. So it's more the small towns of the Blue Ridge with the Piedmont, or the Piedmont plus South Side. So slightly different districts. I love both of them. And the Blue Ridge is where I grew up hiking, camping in those woods. I've worked on opposing, natural gas pipelines and fighting for a living wage in those areas. In Southside, had the honor to represent that area, for a couple of years and helped to expand rural broadband access and rural healthcare options. And as I've said to folks there, if the district line changes, my values don't. My commitment to working class folks and everyone else is going to remain. And if you look right now, for example, in Harrisonburg, I won't represent a lot of Rockingham County, but I've still been meeting with farmers in those areas because many of the people that live in Harrisonburg work on those farms. Their kids are in the Harrisonburg schools. Their farms affect the economy of the area. So I'm going to care about those folks, even if they're a little bit across an artificial line, if, both because they're humans of equal dignity and worth, and because we are in this together. And I think we need to understand that in the same way that when these guys cut off, the Medicaid expansion, we see rural health clinics closing. And then we were meeting with these rescue squad workers in Harrisonburg a few weeks ago, and their call volume has tripled once the rural health clinics have closed, because the only way people can get to the hospital is with the rescue squad. They're waiting till they get super sick. So then we're clogging up the rescue squads, we're clogging up the ERs, we're getting longer wait times in the ER. And all of that cost of the uninsured comes back to all of us through higher premiums, because the insurance companies in the hospital aren't going to take a loss. They're going to spread that over to the middle class and to small business owners. And that's where Ben Klein and McGuire and this corrupt Congress came in again and said, then we're also going to cut the tax credits, the healthcare tax credits for the middle class and small business. So they're hitting you once by pushing off the most vulnerable and hitting you again in the middle class. And why? So that Elon Musk could get a $300,000 tax credit he's not even going to feel. But people sure feel these cuts.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we are talking to 5th, maybe 6th congressional district hopeful Tom Perriello. But either way, get out and vote, right? So you get out and vote by April 21st, and gotta make sure that we vote in every election. It's very important. It does matter. It does matter, people.
It is going to make my football season complicated. We'll have UVA from other colleges. So right now in the brackets, the winner has Tech, JMU, and UVA. The men's bracket, I think, is just UVA of the colleges that are in the district.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Yeah. So go Hoos. But we do have a question online for you, and we want to make sure that you feel like that you tackle what you feel like are the major issues that you would want our listening audience to make sure that they are aware of. When it comes to ultimately deciding whether they vote for you. But we do have a question that says, federal law under the IDEA promises support for students with disability. I'm sorry, federal law under the IDEA promises support for students with disabilities, but it has never fully funded. What specific steps will you take in Congress to increase federal IDEA funding so Virginia schools aren't forced to rely so heavily on local budgets? And what will you do at the federal level to address shortages of special education teachers, support staff, especially in high need districts?
So the first thing is to look at what I've already done. So when I got to Congress and we were facing a possible depression, right? We just had the Wall Street had fallen apart, the housing crisis was on. That first stimulus act we actually had on President Obama's desk before he was even sworn in. A huge chunk of that was plus up funding into localities for public education, including Title I funding and other special needs funding. We then came back and did a supplemental funding later that year to support our public schools. I was a proud product of 10 years in the Albemarle County school system. It was a huge part of what made me who I am. We are blessed to have strong schools here, but we would love to see them even stronger with more funding. That's got to include our ability to train, attract, and retain teachers, including in special ed and special needs areas and the IEP program. So that is something that I will continue to push for at the federal level, including stronger funding there. What I've been trying to do throughout the district is meet with local officials. Because this isn't my first rodeo, I know that one of the most valuable things I can do is meet with local electeds to say, what do you need from the federal government? How can I be a federal advocate? How can I be a pit bull for you in the federal government? Because in the original Constitution, the House was the only office directly elected by the people. yes, it was landowning white men. And even within that, the Senate was elected by the state legislature, the president by the Electoral College. So this has really been the people's house. It was always meant to be the closest thing you have to a local representative to the federal government. And I take that very seriously, of wanting to be present, to know what the schools need, what our economic development planners need, what is going to help keep our health clinics open, in addition to standing up and fiercely resisting Trump's attacks on our Constitution and attacks on our communities. I want to also be a proactive advocate of looking for federal grant funding, looking for where we can have greater flexibility. In one of the communities in the Blue Ridge, we were looking at flexibility with Section 8 vouchers, where it's a good program. I've supported it. But if you get a little bit of a raise at work, it immediately gets cut out of your Section 8 voucher, which discourages people from moving up the work chain in some cases. Where can we find a way that doesn't punish people for starting to get that raise at work and actually helps them instead be saving up a little bit to possibly buy a home or move into, a different kind of apartment? That's the kind of thing that I want to be doing, like the IDEA programs, where you say, okay, tell me where the gap is here and let me go and try to solve it.
Gotcha.
A question. So in my opinion, right after the question of why do individuals, why do votes matter? Why should my vote count? And why do I need to get out in this next election? I think the next thing on people's minds is, I'm tired of surviving. I am tired of living day to day. I'm tired of always having more bills than I have money, and just want to enjoy life, right? And some of that is left up to personal decisions. Others of it is left up to what people on the Hill and individuals like yourself running for Congress, the decisions and the things that they're advocating for on and others' behalf. And so my question to you is that how you plan to prioritize and take and advocate for higher wages, affordable housing, and lower child care.
Better health care.
Better health care.
Yeah.
Affordable health care.
Universal health care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love it. Yeah.
So one of the things that I've tried to do in my life, so I spent most of my life running nonprofit organizations. I spent a little bit, in Congress, spent a little as a peace negotiator overseas. What I always try to do is define first what success looks like and work backwards from that, instead of working up from where people are. So 20 years ago, a little less than 20 years ago, I was an early advocate for moving to a $15 an hour minimum wage, which isn't as much as it was then, and that was considered radical then. But the reason was we kept saying to people, hey, you need to, get off this welfare program and go to work. But we had a minimum wage of $7.25 an hour.
Yeah.
People were literally losing money by going to work. So if we want people to work, the question was, well, let's start with what is a job that would pay enough money that then that person could actually, that single mom could actually take that job. And at the time, 15 was considered, an outlier, but it at least solved the problem. And part of that was because I kept hearing from Democrats, oh, well, we can't do that, but we can move from $7.25 to $8.25 an hour. I'm like, I'll support that, but that's not going to change someone's life, right? That's not something that's going to say, now I can afford to pay my bills this month. So why don't we actually try to fight for a solution that could mean people might be able to get out of debt? They might be able to pay their bills that month. That was the 15 an hour. Same thing with healthcare. While I'm, voted for Obamacare, I was proud to vote for the first version that included a public option and included a Medicare buy-in option. And part of that, and I was quite a bit younger than the rest of Congress when I voted for it, I've been on Obamacare 4 times since I voted for it. And that's because I knew my generation, we weren't going to go work for one company out of high school or college for 40 years with one insurance thing and then retire on Medicare. I was going to be in and out of lots of different jobs, as I have been. So the exchange said, what would change my life is if there's always a place I can go to buy affordable care. I was talking to a woman yesterday whose brother said, I'd been stuck in a dead-end service job. He'd always dreamed of starting a martial arts studio. And he said it was the Affordable Care Act that let him do that, because he knew he wasn't stuck in that job for his health care. He could go do the things he'd always dreamed of doing, and he's now become a successful small business owner. And healthcare shouldn't be the limiting factor for that. So let's get people universal healthcare. we come back to the artificial intelligence thing. Right now, we are competing not against immigrants. Immigrants aren't taking our jobs. Robots are taking our jobs. And right now, if the cost for a worker, if I'm a business owner and I want to hire a worker, the wages I pay that worker is probably only half of the cost of that worker between the way we tax labor and healthcare costs and other things. And then the robot over here doesn't need healthcare. So we need to be looking at systems that aren't disproportionately making it less likely we're going to give the job to the human. So we need to move that healthcare cost off of the employer, which is better for the person, because then they don't have to stress about the fact of whether they're going to have healthcare or not. So what I think we need to do more of in this situation is start with what solves the problem. What's going to mean that you can exhale at night with a bit of economic security? That means more debt-free pathways into the trades, apprenticeship programs at community colleges, something I fought for, wearing a few different hats. Universal pre-K can be a step towards that. These are all programs that make it a little easier for people to believe they are going to be able to provide that basic economic security and brighter future to their kids.
Awesome. Mr. Perriello,
yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us. That we are up against time,
Okay.
but I feel like this is a very fruitful conversation. I feel like we covered a gamut, and we hope to have you back. Please don't be a stranger.
I would love to come back. Come in with some additional questions. Let us know, and we'll circle back. But it's an honor to be here.
Charlie, we got your contact, Charlie. All right, we're gonna be in touch. Ms. Max, you good?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Perriello, for joining us. Appreciate the conversation. We look forward to having you back, and best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
MHO Talk Show.
That's
right, Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
Razor.
Over there in the corner. Oh, look at how fast he was. Oh, yeah, because this is the word on the street.
On the street.
That's right. And so we have, it's a lot going on, and we want to make sure we plug real quick. Our health and wellness workshop is coming up April 14th. Y'all follow our page to get more info on that. None other than Dr. Cam Webb moderating that good thing for you. And so much good stuff going on. That's going to be at the Jefferson School April 14th, so y'all check that out. But also something else is going on right now. We have this young brother with us that is relatively new to the community. He is a new pastor at the downtown Point Church location. None other than my brother Adam Coleman. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Especially since you referred to me as a young brother.
I love your spirit. I love how you're so down to earth, but you also lead God's people. You are a shepherd. And it's so beautiful for somebody to be relatable and somebody who not only, pastors, but also understands the importance of community and connecting with people.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So that being said, you are doing something pretty special in the business financial realm, having an entrepreneurial workshop. So give us the backdrop on this entrepreneurial workshop, what the people need to know and whether or not they qualify.
Right. For sure, man. Well, first and foremost, man, I believe that if we're going to claim to be Christians, then we need to actually live out what we talk about. It's one thing to be able to say it, but if you're not putting any work with it, then how much does that really amount to? And so, when it comes to my role at the Point Church here in Charlottesville, that's what we're about. We claim Jesus on Sunday, then we need to be walking it out Monday through Thursday. And one of the ways that we're doing that right now is helping people to get free from the bondages of poverty. We have an initiative, a four-pronged approach to assist people in pulling themselves out of poverty. And entrepreneurship is a huge part of it. I mean, how I know you're deep in the entrepreneurial game. And so the reality is most people, I think it's like 70% who are able to pull themselves out of poverty, do it through some form of entrepreneurship. And so we want to come alongside people. We have a low-cost entrepreneurship program called the Academy. It's here in Charlottesville. It'll be at 105 Ridge Street, but it's called the Academy, which is a 10-week course. And at the end of that 10 weeks, you have the opportunity to earn up to $3,000 through a pitch contest that'll go towards your business. And so I think it just gives people the fundamentals and what they need to either launch or grow their business. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for people to be able to pull themselves up, man.
That is awesome. And and I'm not the only entrepreneur here. We have some entrepreneurs over there as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for some, is there a certain demographic that you're really trying to reach? Is it just someone who is maybe wondering if they have a business, or like even someone like Razor who may be interested, who already has businesses, right? But there may be certain skills possible, or maybe certain certifications or trainings and things they may be looking for. Is there a certain group or that should be looking?
I'm gonna speak bluntly, man, and just say that the Academy is for anybody. Anybody is welcome to come. I can say also that we don't shy away from the reality that when it comes to Black and brown people in America, there's something that needs to be done about that. And so particularly those who fall in those demographics, we definitely would welcome them to hop on in with us with the Academy. But that being said, man, it's open to all people. If you have a business idea, if you started a business or anywhere in that process, and you just want to learn how to either launch that business or take it to another level, then the Academy is for you.
Good stuff. Now I know some people are wondering. They say, this sounds like a setup. You want me to join this church? Right? But speak on that though. You know what I mean? Like just the role that the church plays in like the representation of somebody. Somebody may, what if they say, well, I'm atheist, pastor, can I come in there? Or like I'm Muslim, whatever the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I will say that we do believe in applying biblical principles, and so that's going to be woven in and throughout the course. But in so much as diligence is not something that's exclusively Christian. I'm saying working hard, like work ethic, that's not exclusively Christian. Having a purpose, that's not exclusively Christian. These are all values that I think people can chime in on. And so those are the things that kind of undergird what we do. But regardless of what your faith background is or lack thereof, whatever it may be, you're welcome to come into the Academy. And we're not going to try to proselytize to you. You can show up, learn the concepts, and dip out, give us the peace sign, and keep it moving. Never see us again. And go flourish in your business. And we're totally comfortable with that.
Well, Razor wanted to know what time the classes was at.
Great question. Yeah, so I was Razor being shy. Tuesday from 6 o'clock to 8:30 is when our classes typically are.
Okay.
And so, about that 3,000, we do have a pitch contest at the end of the 10 weeks where somebody, there's going to be a first, second, and third prize. That top prize, the first prize is going to be the 3,000. There's an opportunity. I think it's the second one is 1,000. And then we split the other two between the other two of the contestants. Okay. That's the idea.
Yeah, if I could, I want to take you back to kind of the precipice for this type of program, and then the foundation for what it is that the service that you're providing. Can you share with us briefly what biblically the word says about business? From whatever perspective, how it should be run, being a steward of one, using your talents, what have you.
Sure. Well, I always want to go back to the beginning. I think it's actually an identity issue.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, if you go back to Genesis 1:26 and 27, the Bible says that we are created in God's image and likeness.
Okay.
And the 5-second real quick definition of that is that we're made to be God's representatives, stewarding the earth in a way that reflects his nature. Okay. And so that being said, we were made to be creators.
Okay.
We were made to be organizers of the natural world and the resources thereof to bring about a fruitful product. That's the basis of business. Business is just taking a product or an idea and bring it to the world, hopefully for the good. Hopefully you're not being destructive in that. And so our belief is that everybody has a capacity to bring something to the table. And if people so choose to do that through entrepreneurship, we want to come alongside them.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's amazing that you're offering this, and thank you on behalf of the community. But we find more times than not the church is willing to provide mentorship and spiritual guidance. They aren't exactly the first ones who are ready to say, let me give you a grant or some money to start a business. Sure. And so I was just trying to have some dialogue about biblically what the Bible says about starting a business, running a business.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's a good question.
And so I guess lastly, what is the inner workings, the specifics to reach out to you? I guess folks to know. It sounds like it's for everybody, but like how do they get in touch with you? What do they need to know to get this process started?
The first thing I would do is recommend going to our website at thepointva.com. You can click on the tab where you'll find the academy. You can register directly. It's $175 to register. However, you don't actually have to pay that up front. You can pay as little as $5 just to get the registration started, and we'll figure out the rest later on. And then we also have scholarships that are available under certain circumstances as well. Or you can email me at adamc@thepointva.com, and I'll be able to reach back out to you and chop it up about whether it'd be right for you.
Good stuff, brother. Thank you for joining us.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
You want to tell us what you preached about this morning? Because I feel like
deeply is that we ought to be able to articulate not only what we believe, but also why. And so I preached a sermon basically giving evidences for how we can know that Christianity is true. So I began with a defense of an argument called the Kalam cosmological argument, just to drop that out there, which basically illustrates that the universe has a creator. And so it's a philosophical argument. And then I went into the historical evidences for the Christian faith, particularly historical evidence for the resurrection. And so just really approaching it from an intellectual standpoint, because I firmly believe that Christianity is not the dumb man's religion. It's not something that where you check your brain at the door. And if you're going to a space, no shade, but if you're in a space where you find yourself as a person of faith, feeling that you have to check your brain at the door, then you might want to consider something else. And so we believe in giving the intellectual side of Christianity along with the other elements as well as encouragement, so on and so forth.
We discussed a question earlier on the show of whether or not money has become our God in terms of the nation, or maybe I guess the world. What's your response to that?
That's a good question. So I would actually take it a step further. I think that what we tend to do is make ourselves God, because money is just an asset. It's a resource. It's a means of getting something else, or giving something else. But really what it comes down to is I think that we've made gods of ourselves. And money is just kind of like the physical representation of an ideology that really stems from idolatry, putting ourselves on the altar of our heart rather than opening our hearts to the true and living God.
Razor, you want to close after that?
And I do hope that our listening audience definitely got something out of it. We spoke to Janasia Bradford, and her sister Josiah, last name.
Josiah Ruiz.
Yeah, author of Mahogany and Friends, and talked about her foundation and financial literacy. And then we had Tom Perriello on. That was a great conversation, congressional hopeful, and learn more about him online. Run back the interview with him, so you can, figure out how you want to cast your vote come November. And then the man of the hour, Pastor
Adam Coleman.
Adam, yeah,
Ridge Street Point Church campus pastor.
Yeah, to pull it all together. So we appreciate all of our guests, definitely our listening audience, for hanging with us the past 3 hours. But it was good information, good for conversation, good to share with people, so you can grow and learn. Okay, so all I have left is take care of yourselves until next time, and we appreciate you.
We're gonna play the pastor out with some blessings of Abraham.
Okay,
that's what we about.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all of these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay aligned with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning into In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.